Time now for Scoop, our weekly conversation on international media and the political and economic headwinds confronting the industry. With trust in the press at a nadir, it's a critical eye on a critical profession. Well, it could save your job or take your job. The technology behind artificial intelligence is racing so fast that many industries don't know whether to be excited or scared, and journalism is no different.
Hello, and welcome to Channel One, a new way of consuming, reporting, and thinking about the news powered by artificial intelligence. All presented by our team of AI-generated reporters.
Channel One is a startup by Adam Awesome that wants to create an AI-powered newsroom, replacing journalists, producers, editors, camera operators, anchors, and lots of costly equipment, all with AI-powered technology. To do this, he will need scale, which he says can only be delivered by AI. Canada's CBC interviewed him about the project.
Fox, CNN, and NBC, it's been reported that they spend $2.5 billion a year on their newsrooms. I need to put out more content than all of them combined, and I don't have $2.5 billion.
Channel One intends to mostly use content produced by major news agencies, feed it into the machine, and let AI rewrite, rehash, and reformat it.
That just came in this morning from the agency. It's been loaded, and the system's run through it, understands the shots, and we are going to figure out the right structure and the right style and the right voiceovers.
So hope for startups. Meanwhile, this comes at a time of rampant disinformation and a crisis of confidence in mainstream media. Outlets should be transparent about their own uses of AI and not compromise their journalistic values.
Should journalists be afraid of AI? No. But should they be cautious about it? Absolutely. We still believe that journalism is done by journalists, but if we're going to use AI, we still need to maintain the editorial best standards and best practices. Those don't go away.
All this comes as France is hosting an AI summit for top tech players and world leaders. President Emmanuel Macron called the event a wake-up call for Europe. Let's bring in our guest, Phil Chetwynd. He's the global news director at the French news agency AFP. Hello to you, Phil. First of all, let's begin with President Macron's comments. Why is this AI summit a wake-up call?
Well, I think it should be not just a wake-up call necessarily for Europe, but for the world. I think if we look around, we can see that these technologies are moving so fast, and the scale of investment in these technologies is so fast, and there isn't perhaps all the necessary discussions, ethical discussions, societal discussions, are not necessarily keeping up with the pace of investment. So I think it comes at a time when there's really a need to look to the future and to try to understand how these technologies are going to develop and how society wants to interact with them.
And can you take us inside the AFP newsroom? Were journalists scared or excited about AI?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. Obviously, the industry as a whole worries about the impact on what we would call the integrity of information. Our concern is that through AI, you'll be able to create vast amounts of poor quality information that will flood the information ecosystem, and also vast amounts of disinformation that will flood the ecosystem. So I think there are real concerns about the bad use of AI. On the upside, there's also already tremendous investigative reporting being done with AI tools. Its ability to crunch data and so on is really strong. And so there are lots of great possibilities for things like investigative reporting.
Sorry, Phil, just to cut in for our viewers, could you maybe explain some of those advantages that AI gives to investigative reporting?
Well, I mean, several. On a day-to-day basis, the ability to do an immense amount of very fast research on topics, which we're seeing already, that already impacts just the work of journalists daily. But if you're really going to go into investigations, that's like having an extra set of hands or two or three, just to be able to just attack subjects in depth really quickly. Then a really good example I could give you was perhaps the New York Times' investigation into the use of large aerial ordnance in Gaza, for which they won a Pulitzer Prize this year, was how they could program their own AI to map Gaza and to look for the spaces, the holes where these large bombs dropped. Again, that's using quite simple technologies on a place that's far away and out of reach, to be able to bring back really important data and storytelling that ultimately leads to quality journalism. So there are lots of tools that will help us to do our job better.
Right, right. There's so much of the reporting on AI, at least in the early days, was this dystopian narrative. But even till today now, we still see some people seeing AI as a replacement technology, others as an assistance technology. Does it come down to the newsroom and how they choose to adapt to it?
No, I think there are two things. I think, as you say, there is the sort of enhancing of what we do now to help us do our job better, and the efficiency savings and the productivity that can come from these tools. And then there is inevitably the replacement of a certain amount of tasks that are currently done. So, the jobs of tomorrow are going to be different from the jobs of today. We see the real value in, trying to find the added value of journalism. And where's the added value of journalism? That's in human sources, human stories, scoops that come from your sources, being on the ground where the robots can't go, and to really make us focus more on what is added value. Some of the more mundane tasks, I think certainly people think will need less in the future, not now, but less copy editors, or the editing process of photo, video, and words will be made simpler and more efficient by some of these machines. So it'll be different skill sets for the future that we'll want.
Okay. A couple of weeks ago, AFP announced it was teaming up with Mistral AI. Tell us more about this partnership and what you hope it accomplishes.
Yeah, well, I think one of the concerns we would have at the moment is the health of the information ecosystem. Many of the large platforms are really pulling away from what I would call a commitment to fact-based information. We've seen that from Meta, we've seen that from X. And so I think it's really important in this new ecosystem of information that we're creating with these new technology companies, the OpenAIs, the Mistrals of this world, that this new information ecosystem is based on fact-based, reliable information. And so, that's at the heart of the deal with Mistral. The idea that AFP's huge archive of fact-corrected information can be used as people ask questions of the chatbot day to day for answers on what's going on in the world, and also on, for research on whatever the project they have is.
So this partnership, would it benefit the journalist or the user at the end of that process?
Yeah, no, it's for us, it's really about the user, and it's about bringing that quality information to new audiences. We don't really imagine this is going to be the same audience as people wanting to read their newspaper every day. This is people doing research in their daily life for various different things that they may need to be doing. It could be a project, could be a business issue, and that they can rely on a product that has been, fact checked, and that it is based on facts and quality information.
Do all AI models include inherent biases, and they just have to be sussed out through trial and error?
I think that's one of the issues. I think humans have biases too, we must remember, right? So I think in all our interaction with information and the way we choose information, the way we present information, it's important that we accept our limitations in that sense. And so the way we approach technology and the way we approach journalism, I think we should come with the same thought process of skeptical interaction, and understand that, of course, there are biases inherent in both these systems.
This AFP Mistral collaboration comes after months of in-depth discussions. Can you take us inside those talks perhaps a little bit? What did they cover? What were some of the thorny sticking points?
I can't go too deep, but what I can say, it was, we've turned down other deals with big platforms, technology companies, because we didn't really feel it was in our interest, and we didn't really feel it was something that was, for the benefit of the ecosystem. What we didn't want to do is we didn't want to hand over our archive simply to train large language models. So it's not actually a training contract, and that's what many deals in the media have been about. This is about trying to create something constructive for the future, a product that people will interact with going forward. So what took time was really trying to work through that thinking and try to create something that we can build a real partnership going forward, and it can develop going forward, not just a one-off sale of our data or archive our heritage.
Yeah, it seems very forward-thinking, but I'm curious, Phil. Thomson Reuters Foundation polled some 200 journalists in the Global South. It found that 80% of those journalists were using AI, and that almost the same number, I think it's 79.3%, said that their newsrooms had no established policy for AI. Why do you think so many media outlets are dragging their feet?
I don't think they're dragging their feet. I think, in a sense, the changes have gone so fast around them that maybe some smaller news organizations, are struggling to adapt. I think one of the first things we did was really work on ethical guidelines for the newsroom as to how to use AI, how to interact with AI. I think, one of the things that we can always say that's absolute at the heart of everything that we do, that, we are AI informed, but everything is really about the human at the end of the chain. And that's incredibly important. I mean, another issue I would say around AI at the moment is that AI tools are infused into so many things that people are using in their everyday life. And often people aren't really aware that they're using AI tools when they are. So I think that's one of the problems with this whole issue around transparency.
In terms of establishing a charter, are there certain journalistic truths that are universal, or will charters come down to the way each individual newsroom or media outlet functions?
I think what's really interesting, I was recently at a meeting of around 20, 30 major media from across Europe. And what is interesting is that everybody has kind of the same baseline of ethical beliefs and charters around the use of AI. I think as I just mentioned, one thing that's incredibly important is the transparency. So to say clearly what you are doing with it, how you are using technology, and that'll be extremely important. You're seeing that already, in that some people are using Gen AI to generate content. Labeling is very important, so as not to win the trust of the audience and explain exactly what you're doing. And as I said, nearly everybody really has this understanding that we have to maintain the value that we as human journalists bring to the table. Otherwise, you're really going to be just cloning poor quality information that you're going to be flooding into the information ecosystem.
It's a bold new world, isn't it, Phil? Thank you. Thank you very much. Agence France Presse's Global News Director, Phil Chetwynd. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that brings us to our quote of the week. It comes from the media professor, Charlie Beckett, who wrote on Medium.com a few months ago. He said, quote, "The cliche is that we exaggerate the short-term effect of these technology leaps and underestimate their long-term impact. But regardless of what happens, it is vital to pay attention to generative AI and to start the process right now of thinking through how it might change your working life and your business." That's it for this edition of Scoop. Thank you for watching. Please stay tuned to France 24.